Hey, Charlie's London. Hey, everybody. We are here with Charlie's London talking about Charlie's London, the new Indiegogo project, as well we should be.
Hey, thanks for having me, Adam.
Yeah, it's great to be with you. We've known each other for a while. I remember when you were thinking first about doing this project, we would talk about it every now and then. And it's very cool you did it, and it's off to a huge successful start.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I mean, there's no other way I can describe it. That it's been incredible. I just want to thank everybody that's obviously backed it and everybody that's supported it, because it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and it even helps when people share it out. It's just that helps a lot too, right? People getting to see it.
Yeah,
no, it's cool.
True. It's true. Like I always say the same thing, and I know most people do that. If you can't, for whatever circumstance, afford to buy it, just sharing it out so maybe someone sees it that didn't know it was there. Even things like we're coming up to Christmas and stuff. People thinking about what they're going to get for their loved ones, or they know, oh, this looks really cool. Yeah, they'd love that.
Such a great get. Anybody who's a Charlie Chaplin fan. So just to kind of give a basic explanation of what the project is. The project, what would you say, like the easiest basic, and obviously Charlie Chaplin's involved, but what's the basic explanation of the project?
I think Ethan described it best where he called it a biographical novel.
Okay.
It's a graphic novel, but it's a biography. And it's pretty much, if you imagine the Robert Downey Jr. film, but historically accurate with amazing art.
Perfect.
I can describe it. If someone said to me, describe this in a nutshell, that is how I would describe it.
And you've always been into Charlie Chaplin, like super, but your family sort of has been too, right? It wasn't just you.
I did some family research about 15 years ago, I think it was, and found that my great uncle was in a workhouse, which is almost like a poorhouse in Kennington in South London, with Chaplin when they were only about 6 years old. They never grew up together. They didn't know each other. There wasn't, it's not like there's this lifelong connection with the family. But I found this out, and it got me thinking: was his style of humour? Was it geographical? So was it a very South London thing? Did he do all of this?
Because like people in the area had that kind of sense of humor.
Yeah, exactly that. So I'm thinking that might be the case actually, and it put me on this like magical mystery tour of sort of getting to know him, getting to know. The best way I can think of describing it is I saw his films in a completely different light, because I understood that every one of his films was telling a story of either something that he'd experienced or something that he knew someone else had experienced.
So did it turn out being geographical? Did it turn out that people had his sense of humor in that area?
There's a lot of mannerisms and things that are quite shared, and if you're from around there and you watch his films, you can see them. Also, I think the other thing to say about it is Londoners have what is known as a very gallows humour. So there's so the idea of very dark humour. They will try to find a joke in the most god awful of situations. That's something that he was very, very famous for, because one minute you'd be laughing at something and the next minute you'd be crying at something, because he'd slap you back to a moment of absolute pathos and hardship. You saw it in so many of his films where you loved the tramp, and then equally you felt so sorry for him. And then there were other times where you thought the tramp was a bit of a jerk and you wanted like the other guy to win, but ultimately it was always about the little guy winning. And I think that was really important.
How many films did he actually make?
Oh God, it depends where you're going with, because over 50, if you're counting his Keystone films and his if you're counting Keystone and Mutual and S&A, with his own production company, the famous big ones, I think he's about 22.
He started United Artists with partners, right?
Yes, with Douglas Fairbanks and D.W. Griffith and Mary Pickford. So yeah, he was, and United Artists is the silent films equivalent of COMICSGATE.
Yeah, because the studio had so much control over what everybody was doing, from content to making money, that they became big stars, and they were like, well, screw you, we're going to go off on our own, right?
Yeah, Yeah, pretty much. And it was very lucrative, and I know that he had control over everything, and it was because he had such amazing control that so many of his films survive now, because he was one of the first to use celluloid and not nitrate. And nitrate is it's very, very it can just spontaneously combust if it's not kept at the right temperature. It's very volatile.
Was it really, really cheap? Like, why would anybody make films with nitrate?
Because it was really cheap, and it was the first sort of one that was used. And it's why we don't have so many classics now, and why so many picture houses went up in smoke, because it wasn't something that anyone else.
Movies would just catch fire and burn the movie theaters down?
They could do, or
That
they
doesn't sound good.
No, and it was quite. Chaplin was very, very involved in the process of making his films. He edited all his own films. There are even stories of on set that he even did the makeup of the actresses because he wanted them to look a certain way on film.
Wow.
So he was incredibly hands-on with everything. And I think if he was alive now, I think he would be. If he had anything to do with my comic, he would be like, you do everything yourself, from checking the proofs to ordering it. I think he'd quite approve of the way of doing things with crowdfunding campaigns, because he was so controlling of every aspect of his art. And even down to things with me, like, I'm going to be doing all my own fulfillment. I'm printing with Mixam, who are in the UK as well as obviously in the US. So I've complete control over. So I think he's probably rubbed off on me a little bit.
Do they have their own printing place in the UK? I know they're based out of the UK.
Yeah. They do. As far as I know, I've been told they also they have a distribution center as well. But I'm actually doing. I'm going to do that myself.
Oh yeah, that you want to control that for sure. It's not going to be that bad. I mean, hopefully you'll get to. You're doing very well so far. You'll have a lot of backers, but you'll get through it. Then it'll be totally worth it, because you'll just know that everybody got everything right and everything was perfect. Oh, interesting. So now you were interested in comics before Charlie's London, because
yeah.
So what kind of comics were you into? What kind of comics were you following?
I used to go to comic shops in London a lot, and I would pick up anything that I liked the look of. It wasn't just the big two. It was, there's some real art house comic shops in central London that do independent books, and some of them, some of them I'd pick up and not even know if they were independent or they were a big label. Some of them I didn't even know the label. I'm a big fan of The Walking Dead. I read The Walking Dead from the first issue right to the very last one.
Oh wow.
I used to love the X-Files comics when they did those, from Topps, when Topps did them originally, all the way through to Dark Horse, and IDW did them. It was anything. I used to read a lot of Marvel, a lot of DC. My favorite comic of all time, though, if anyone ever asked me that, my favorite graphic novel of all time is Mouse. That is my favorite of all time. I used that at school to teach about the Holocaust.
Oh, great.
Because it's so visually, it's brilliant for kids to be able to get their heads around this hunt or be hunted sort of scenario of what it was. We have, I'm sure you do over there as well, World Book Day. I've used it so many times on World Book Day for something. So I think that's probably my favorite.
You ever get feedback from parents that are like, wow, I never knew that existed. That's so interesting. Okay.
All the time with Mouse, all the time. And it shocks me because, I always used to joke, if a comic book shop is worth its weight in salt, it carries Mouse. And lo and behold, any book shop, let alone comic shop, any book shop that's worth its weight carries Mouse. So I definitely, it's one of my favorites. But I think what got me into COMICSGATE was I started to notice that when I was going to these shops, that the quality of the books was declining. It wasn't even the forced agenda in the comics that really I noticed straight away. It was the art. It was the very Tumblr style art, the very sort of a very slapdash. There was no passion in it, and and it was me, and I was just like, why is this happening? And the thing that really I took a step back and went, wow, things are changing, was the second-hand comic fairs were much more busier than the comic shops. And I realized that the reason for that is people were buying the old stuff, but they weren't buying the new stuff.
Yeah. Just over the years, there used to be a lot more editorial control and higher standards. And, I go back to like the buying comics in the 1980s, and they had strong management where they were making sure that everything was good. They had an editor-in-chief that was solid, that had standards. Then they had editors under them, and then assistant editors, and everybody was kind of very respectful of all the characters and everything they were doing. And then basically after Marvel got bought out in the 1980s and then Jim Shooter left, the standards just started to go completely out the window. And then there have been some artists that have kept things alive, like people like Ethan Van Sciver, who's, very passionate, trying to be one of the top artists. When he talks about being one of the top artists at Wizard, and there were artists that were really trying to do amazing work, but everybody was kind of working, individually rather than working as part of a group, and older comics, you had this sense that you knew what a Marvel comic was or a DC comic was. There were certain standards and things, and that just kind of went away.
Yeah.
So it's a major loss too, because we can always do amazing individual projects, but what we can do together is even more than what we can do individually, which is what we're doing kind of with COMICSGATE, but the editorial kind of doesn't mix, which is fine though, because you can see like with COMICSGATE, everybody supports each other, which makes everybody more successful. It makes it all that much more open and that much more interesting, and everyone can be successful, whether like your campaign's going to do 30 something thousand now, and then eventually does a heck of a lot more, or other campaigns end lower, or other campaigns are bigger. Like everybody can succeed as long as they stay focused on what they're doing. But it's very cool how you get at least a little bit of that old sense of everybody being passionate and working kind of collectively.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, and it's like the thing with my book is that I got a very good deal with the Chaplins. They've been fantastic with this project. So the fact that, my license allows me to take it to Comic-Cons if I want to. It allows me to go to local book comic shops and say, do you want this in your store? So it can go anywhere, and they haven't just limited me to selling it on Indiegogo. They've pretty much said, this is your book. It is our IP, but it is your book. So you can do it pretty much what you like, as long as, I have to pay them the percentage of the royalties that they want, which is in my contract, which is completely fine. And they are so supportive. There's been some tweaking with some of the covers and some of the pages, but overall, they've been so supportive of the project. They like the fact that it's not going to be your traditional, like Once Upon a Time starts with his birth. It's thematic. So it goes from different themes of his life through the streets of London, and how that's affected his films, his personal life, his professional life. And they liked the concept of it. And they really liked the idea of what I wanted to do. And because I've done stuff with them for so long now, they trust that what I do is going to be really respectful. It's going to be true to the story. I mean, as well, because I am a teacher and my history is my thing, they know it's going to be accurate. I'm not going to play fast and loose with the truth. I'm using credible sources, even down to the photos, because I have access to the archives. And a vast array of good books. The pictures are beautifully drawn because I've given the artist every angle of his face that he could.
That's great.
So,
you'll do it, and you'll do it right, and then you'll have it forever when it's done. It's great to work that way.
Yeah, and everybody that's been involved with this project has been, so super supportive. I mean, for example, there's not a single live stream that I do where someone who hasn't worked on this project isn't in the chat supporting me. And there's two of them in the chat right now. There's Proper Comics, which is Carl, Stefan and Mary Boys. And then there's Statistical Zero, they've both done things on this project. Carl's cover is completely like blowing this campaign out of the water.
Yeah, that's where is it? It's further up.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Or is it further down?
No,
It's this one, but not in color. This isn't the color version of it.
No, the color version by Ink Spots is right at the bottom. That was the print that's been when we hit 30K, that was the print that's been available to everybody. And for the second 30 days of the campaign, there's going to be another variant added. I'm not going to overdo the variant, so this is the only one that's being added after this point, and it's going to be of that color covered. And I'm trying to work out a way at the moment where I can get a code sent to everybody who's bought this cover so that they can have free or reduced shipping if they decide to purchase the second one.
Oh, cool.
Because I think that's ultimately that's the fairest thing to do. But yeah, I mean, like I say, they come along, they support me. Statistical Zero is working at the moment on an absolutely fantastic little one shot that's going to be available to everybody when we hit the 20K stretch goal. It's a little collection of stories called Kid Capers, so it's based around the film The Kid. So
cool.
It's sort of in the film. Obviously, Charlie finds the little baby, and then it has a 5-year time jump. So we played around with the idea of what sort of things did they get up to in those 5 years. So this little thing is almost like the stories that you'd love to think actually happened, and that's what this is that you're seeing now.
And the licensors like that. The estate likes that.
Yeah, they've given every single thing that I've done. They've seen. I mean,
look how cute. That is really cute.
Yeah, he's really, really good at how he's drawn these. I mean, some of the other pieces I've seen, they're incredible.
Who did this, Chubb?
No, that's Statistical Zero did that.
Oh, Statistical Zero. Very nice work.
So it's really good. And that's the Ink Spots coloured Chubb cover.
Oh, nice. Was that his concept for the cover? That's a great concept.
Yeah, I mean, Chubb just we had some ideas. He bounded some ideas around. We sort of settled with this one. See, what happens often with anything to do with us is because we have a CG UK DM group, he put the 3 ideas in there, and unanimously, pretty much everyone in the DM group went, that one, like this one. And so he went away, worked on it, and he sent it to me. And originally it was going to be a print. And then I put it up on Facebook, and it was Billy Tucci turned around and said, no, don't make this a print. Make this a cover. What I will produce for you will be a print. He said, because this is one of the best covers I've ever seen. That was his exact words. Wow. And I screenshotted it and I DM'd it to Chubb. And he actually said, like, Jesus, I can't believe it.
That's great.
He was saying that and it is true, though. I mean, it's completely I think it sold 62 copies on its own, and that's
so. And the estate is probably giving you feedback saying, like, "Hey, we kind of love this piece."
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really interesting because I'm finding the CG audience, they seem to the feedback I'm getting is the CG audience is very, very much sort of Chubb's cover and also Donald's cover that's there. Which the Chaplins refer to as the manga cover, and I jokingly say they obviously don't know what manga looks like because that doesn't look anything like manga, but that's how they refer to it. But the silent film, I've got quite a large silent film audience following on my Facebook. I've got about 5,000 followers over there. Wow. I do a lot of that stuff over there, and the one that they go mad about that they love is actually Vinny's cover. Yeah, Vinny's cover is the one that because it's the traditional sort of tramp. He went for the real traditional look.
Yeah.
And, that's very much sort of what they've gone for. And I've definitely, at that cover, the people that I know from all the silent film stuff, they're the ones that have either bought like one of the 3 covers tiers because they want that one, or they bought Vinny's on its own. So it's definitely, I think there's definitely something for everybody in here. Definitely.
Yeah, it's one of the most interesting and unique COMICSGATE projects for sure. And it was very cool to see you were talking about this project 6 months ago, and then you finally decided, you know what, you're going to do it, and you're doing it, and you're doing what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's very cool.
I got the license back in January.
Mm.
And I'm not going to lie to you, Adam, I put it off 6 months for the simple fact that so much happened with unfulfilled crack campaigns and this sort of stuff. I didn't feel that the community knew me well enough to trust me with their money. So I put it back about 6 months so that I could build my channel, build my reputation, you know, build a following. People got to know me. They knew exactly what I was about. And then I released my mailing list on the 3rd of July with the intention of releasing the book on the 16th of October, because I was very, very specific that when it's a project like this, as we all know, that people don't only buy a great looking product, they buy the professionalism of the person that is producing this product. So therefore, you know, it's 50-50. And I thought to myself, I have to make sure that every single wheel on this is great. Everything is perfect, and that's what I did.
You're being incredibly careful, which I think it's fantastic to do that, because people have a lot of patience. People in COMICSGATE or customers have a lot of patience. We all kind of understand that sometimes people are making books for the first time, or they're doing everything for the first time. So there can be all kinds of hangups in production. And, you know, that's why with me, I like to just make sure everything is absolutely completely done. I'm still working on completing the graphics for the mermaids. There's always something that happens that is unexpected. So in my case, because like you, I have a busy life, I just kind of like to make sure like I have everything done so that nothing can go wrong. And then even with that, sometimes something can go wrong. So, but people understand that. But I think you're going to see, and you're already kind of seeing the benefit of just confidently knowing, like, you actually do have your whole act together with all of this stuff.
Yeah.
You figured everything out. And to do a first project that's a licensed project, you have a relationship with them. But even so, that's another whole layer of being able to get approved by somebody to do stuff.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm a stickler for making sure everything is right. The funny thing is now, Chubb and Stato are in there, as far as I still know, because the last comment I can see is Chubb's. They will tell you, Adam, I'm the worst boss in the world. And the reason I say this is because I'm not bossy enough. Like Chubb has told me, I'm not bossy enough. I will be like, I'm really sorry, don't hate me, but please can you change this slight thing? And it's because I could never draw the way these guys do. I am thankful every day for the beautiful art they create. So
well, you know what, I've seen people that you would be surprised as experienced or as good as they are at what they do. They're not comfortable giving directions to people and correcting people. And it just takes a little bit of practice, especially when people know where you're coming from. Like, look, we're just trying to make a great project. Part of my response, you know, who is responsible for making sure everything is right? You know, if it's you, then it's you. So people just need to understand it's never anything personal. And as long as you respect, there you go. She sucks. Yeah. As long as you always respect other people and their time as much as possible. And you just say, you know, and if it's something that you did wrong, maybe you didn't give them correct or clear enough instructions in the first place, then like I've apologized to people before, and I've said like, hey, I'm sorry, something just doesn't seem right about this. Could you help me with this? But if you put people to a lot of trouble, then you pay them again, you know, for whatever the heck it was.
I mean, I'm very, still here. Yes, she ordered me to take a break, take care. Yeah, I do. He's Statistical Zero is arguably one of the hardest working people in CG. He also has produced my hand-drawn sketch cards for this campaign.
Wow.
And
I see him do cartoons on us too sometimes, I think, if I'm remembering the right Statistical Zero.
Yeah, you are remembering the right one. And he just loves being around here. He loves helping with projects. And the thing is, I knew as well, he's got a massive love of film in general, but he's also got a massive love of silent films. And everything he's done for this campaign has not been because I've directed him. It's been because it's from the heart. And that's the same with Carl Stefan. That's exactly the same with Vinny. Captain Fuckhead of CG UK has done he designed the title for this. He's done the little ident in the corner. I don't give him enough credit. He always jokes to me, you always forget me. I'm like, I don't forget you. Whenever I turn around and say anything nice about you, you tell me off. So that's why I don't.
Yeah. It's all his fault again. You know, just blame it on the F head.
It's 100% his fault.
Blame it on the fuckhead.
But yeah, there's a lot of passion in here. I mean, even down to, you know, that cover by Donald. He worked so hard. Kyle Ritter done the colors for it.
Beautiful.
Mickey, who's the main artist, is friends with Carl. And Carl was my original choice. I wanted either Carl or Donald to do the book.
Sure.
And Carl was working on Mary Boys, and he very much went. Carl's the sort of artist that when he's working on something, that consumes him. So he very honestly said to me, I don't want to promise you something because my head's not in it. I want to do this one. And it was that open and honesty. And he said, as much as I want to, I can't.
Yeah, that's a very professional thing to say, because a lot of times people take on too much work and they don't really know what they can do, or they don't want to say no when they get an opportunity for an assignment. But just all good people. That's you got a lot of great people you're working with.
Oh yeah, 100%. And with Mickey, I had a look at his portfolio and I was like, that is what I want to do. And of course I couldn't have before, like Mickey, obviously I couldn't have Donald because Donald was working on Cash Grab. So it was really really nice to be able to have him do this. Mickey's work on just drawing Chaplin's face. It's not easy to draw someone that's well known. I mean, when you're drawing
a likeness, it can be tough to get a likeness.
Yeah, and he's nailed it so much, and it's just so incredible.
Vinny does a nice job on likenesses too, Vinny T.
Oh yeah. I mean, his cover for this is incredible, and the amount of the detail that he paid to it, especially I even know the pictures he's used for inspiration because of the way that he's drawn Chaplin. So it's absolutely fantastic. Everybody in this has worked. They've really put their soul into it, and that's so special to me. And this goes back to my original point in what was wrong for me with the comics industry. There was no passion and there was no soul in these projects. People weren't fighting each other to be able to draw Batman or be able to draw Captain America because it was such an iconic thing that if you was a comic artist and you got to draw these characters, you had made it. People weren't thinking like that. They were treating it as just a job. It's not just a job.
Yeah, no. There was no reverence for the company or the history or what the brands mean. And it's recently there's an Avengers game that came out that is just, it's terrible. It's not even terrible because it's SJW terrible. It is SJW terrible, but it's just not well made. The graphics are poor, and it's tanking. And it's like, geez, you've got the Avengers. Like, how the heck could Disney let something like that go out? And they really just must not have cared.
No, and you know the thing as well, when you're getting the Lego Avengers games outselling these games,
right. Something's not right, because Lego has standards and they're not going to damage the Lego brand, and they want to keep it. And they've done amazing things with the Lego brand, but yeah, it really is ponderous. It's sort of like, how the hell could you do that? But we know because the leadership over there is terrible, and they've now become. Ethan did a tweet earlier today I saw about like there's no reason to read crappy corporate comics anymore, and he's right. There's nothing there really. Occasionally the art is good, and occasionally a story is good, but it's just so occasional. So why invest yourself in something if they don't care about it? Then why should you?
That it's another reason that I think that Rob Kirkman had the right attitude with so many things, because he had an idea in his head for The Walking Dead from the get-go. He knew exactly where it was going to end, and he ended it. He ended it at the point where he saw his story going. No one tried to offer him more money to keep going. He didn't try to do something that was pandering. There's nothing SJW about The Walking Dead. However, the new TV shows,
Jesus. Some of that. I'm watching it, and there's disabled people in there. I'm like, look, I respect disabled people, but you cannot. Blind people are not going to make it. In a zombie apocalypse, not that they shouldn't. It's just you can't.
Pregnant women wouldn't even necessarily be able to, because like I remember reading something once where they were saying, if this virus that is that whatever the Walking Dead virus is meant to be, if a woman had a bad experience and she gave birth to a child that had died, the child would technically turn, so it could kill her. But they never, there's all this lore of the story and stuff that they don't ever really go into.
Yeah, there's a lot they can't address.
Yeah, and it's very the one thing I always originally liked the program for, but I don't even watch the program no more because it's just got ridiculous, is the fact that they were not overly gory to be there was everything was contextualized, and that's the problem with modern comics. It's not contextualized. No one has an issue with there being all these different characters under the sun and under the rainbow, but it's when you're putting a square peg in a round hole. Why not just create new characters? Why have you got to make these characters something completely different? Have them coexisting alongside. And that was kind of another thing that brought me into COMICSGATE, because I was like, why are they turning these things upside down to prove a point for people that aren't even buying them? I mean, let's be completely honest. They're not buying this stuff. They're the ones saying they're the ones shouting the loudest, but they're not buying it. We're still buying
it. They're just there to try to ruin it if they can. So you decided to go with 64 pages, which I think is great. It's a good page count. My thing is always like, you start at 48, but for a project like this, there's so much work going into it. 64 pages will kind of like last forever as a great solid page count. It could be on a bookshelf forever.
Yeah, I mean, we are having talks, Mickey and I are having talks about the fact that the script looks like it could possibly be more. There's very little that I want to cut out, because I think everything is in there. So it might be that we make
a few more pages.
We make another, if we hit 40K, we're talking about making the stretch goal another 10 pages.
Cool.
That's what we're thinking about. But then saying that, it goes down to the editing. He's working through it now, and it could come to a point where he might say this particular page of dialogue here, it doesn't need to be said this way. It could be done with just 2 panels on one page, and then you're cutting a page out here, a page out there. So it might just be, at the moment, the way I've written it down, he can see that there's a better visual way of representing it. Which,
if you could do rough thumbnails, just like stick man layouts, then it's a great way to communicate from writer to artist, to see that's what your layout will basically be.
And he does that as well, because
cool.
If you have a look at the 3 pages that are there, there's one particular page where he's looking at it's the very last one of these 3 pages, and was it page 4? There we go. And it's that particular page there. That was about 2 or 3 pages of dialogue, like 2 or 3 pages of my descriptions and what was going on. And it's all on one page, because he said you can visually get that across. Like there's actually going to be no dialogue on that page, because you don't need it, because you know what's going on by the words from the previous page,
right? And
then what's going to follow that is very self-explanatory. So that's why we might not even need to worry about these further 10 pages. I'm just very conscious. I want this story to end at a point, and I want everybody to have know exactly what's going on, because the contract I've got is for the minimum of 1 book, the maximum of 3.
Nice.
Because what I wanted to do was, this book ends in 1921 when he returns to London again, and I wanted it to either be a really great standalone story. Thank you. What about that means so much. That's one thing I'll say, that 100% the art on this, you can't knock it. The art on this is incredible.
It's beautiful.
I wanted it to be a great, if it didn't do as well as I hoped it would do, as well as it is doing, I was going to have it as a standalone story of a part of his life that I may not have known much about. But the way that it's going, people are already saying to me, like, what have you got in store for book 2? Mickey has already said to me, what are we doing for book 2? So I'm definitely thinking this is going to be, and the plan is, when I've done all 3, if I do all 3, I want to bring them out together in a proper nice hardback book, the way Ethan's doing Warts and All. That
Sure.
would be my ambition to do that.
You'll be able to, and Mixam can accommodate that too.
Oh, and just not to forget William Crawford Hazel, who's
Hey.
written Elsa Dark, Werewolves and Vampires, has produced the most stunning one shot for this campaign.
Oh yeah, I think I was just near there.
Yeah, it's about Stan and Charlie sites from Kennington to Keystone, to keep with the theme of from East Lane to the Limelight. But it's the friendship between Stan Laurel and Charlie Chaplin, which
how cool.
There was a friendship between them, and he's working on that for me. You can either buy that separately, or it comes as an add-on with every one of the tiers.
Every tier.
And if you back the Keystone Kit and Caboodle tier, which is the highest tier, you automatically get it.
Excellent.
So yeah, it's he's the stuff he's done for that is just incredible. His art is. He's
a great guy, great sense of humor, and another teacher. I love teachers. I come from a family of teachers. That's why.
He's everybody working on this is just they've all got such a beautiful high standard. It's absolutely incredible.
Well, I'm sure nobody wants to be the one that ruins it, and so everyone's going to do the right job.
I'm scared to be the one that's ruining it.
No, you're not ruining anything, obviously. No. Well, that's the other great thing about collaborating is you're not on your own. You're getting feedback from everybody. Everybody's kind of contributing ideas, and you're, you see it's the collaboration with COMICSGATE is amazing. And then you have your own little crew that you do stuff with. So it's fantastic. Let's look at the tiers.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of tiers, all 3 covers. I like that you did 3 covers. I am a multiple cover kind of guy. And I don't see any of these covers that you could take away. You couldn't take away the Vinny one or the Don DeLay one or the Chubb one for sure. So it's kind of like that's the game. You gotta give people a chance to get all of them. And you've got it right up front as the featured tier.
That was the one I had the most people message me about before I launched, saying, please make sure you're doing all covers tier. I can't decide which one to buy. And that particular tier, you'll see that there's 2 prints available on that tier. Well, the reason why the 3rd print, which is Chubb's cover, isn't on there, everybody that backs anyway is going to get it. But the reason it wasn't included, that was it was the 10K stretch goal. So when I hit my funding criteria, everyone gets that one anyway. So I didn't want to give too much away with that picture.
Gotcha.
But it is, if you back those tiers, you're going to get every single one of them as we call it A4, but I think it's 11 by 8 print. You guys in the States. So they're nice size prints. And again, I'm doing them with Mixam, and Mixam's quality. I saw firsthand Chubb's Mary Boy's prints from Mixam. They were beautiful. So I was like, that's definitely what I'm doing.
For sure. Yeah, that's a great. I mean, I would think mostly people would want to try to get all of them. Then you've got Don's cover, which was the first promotional art that we saw, I think, for the campaign, right?
Yeah, it was. I actually got it the day I ended up going on with Ethan, and it was like the perfect one to show because it was not only Donald's cover, so he's known for doing cash grab, but it's Kyle's colors, which obviously is he does all of Ethan's Cyberfrog stuff. So it was just a perfect stream to launch it on.
Introduce it.
Yeah, definitely.
25 US, 19. Okay, so you're right in the standard zone. Carl Stephen, aka Chubb. The Carl cover, 65 claims. Very cool. Charlie and Stan One Shot Comics. So this is what you're talking about. This is a separate book. This one's 24 pages, you said?
Yeah, it'd be 24. Well, at the moment, at the moment is 24. It could be more. Wooly is still working on it. So it was one of the reasons why I decided to keep the price the same as the standard cover, because it could end up being 36, 48 pages. Again, I don't want to squander on his beautiful artwork. If it sticks to 24, I've already said I'm going to put something free in there for everybody that's backed it separately, because I think
very cool. Because you're so cool, that's why. The Vinny T cover, very cool.
Yeah, totally.
Very cool. He likes to use that dark blue a lot. It's very Vinny. It's like very signature Vinny T. Yeah. I know I see a lot of dark blue.
Saying that, we had a chat about this cover, and we both decided that he would be in like that sort of London light with the gas lamp. he actually said to me, do you want this during the day on a set, or do you want it at night? And I was like, I think it's got to be, when people think of Victorian London, they think of gas lamps, they think of Jack the Ripper. So I thought, if you're going to make it that he's in London, you kind of need to have it that light. And we played around with the idea. If you have a look at that one, you'll see it's right up close to the front of the comic. Whereas the Donald DeLay one, Charlie's running in the background towards the front. So the idea was it was a depth of perception. When you put them next to each other, you've got the young boy running towards becoming the tramp.
Wow. That is good. That's good to think that through. That's another level. That's very cool.
Can I say, I was off work I was technically still working from home, but I was on 6 months. I wasn't at work on lockdown. I had a lot of time to think about this stuff.
Yeah. Well, hey, you use the time.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are going to be a lot of interesting things that come out of people that, like, we've been on lockdown during this time. What very, very, very strange time in our lifetimes.
Yeah, totally. You are 100% right. But you're right. I was incredibly productive with it. I did most of my stuff. The only thing that I never got to do was actually wander around the places in London to do with it because of lockdown, but I grew up around there, so I know it pretty well.
You clearly know your stuff, no question about it. And I don't hear you talk about things that you don't know about. So you do tend to stay on your, like, when you're speaking from experience. Let's put it that way.
And I'm quite honest in saying, like, if someone says something to me, I'll go, you know what, I don't know much about that, but let me find out and I'll get back to you. And I think
that's very professional. That's exactly what we're all supposed to do. You're so orderly.
Yeah, I think that comes from being a teacher, because you know what, thanks to like social media and YouTube and all this stuff, kids come into your class sometimes when you're starting a new topic and they know more than you do. And the worst thing you can do is bullshit them. Be honest. Do you know what? I don't know that about the Battle of Stalingrad, but if you let me go away tonight and have a look, how about you do some homework on it? I do some homework and let's compare notes tomorrow. They respect you so much more if you try to blag your way through it. And that's always what I do. There are bits about this book I had to go and research about 4 or 5 times to make sure I was right what I was saying. Because ultimately, when you're creating a comic book, you've got to create a timeline. So I had to make sure if I said he was in London on the 16th of October, 1952, he was in London and wasn't swanning it up in Paris somewhere. Right. So I had to make sure it was all right.
Check your homework. So you have the 3-cover international tier. Now, this does look the same as the other tier.
No, it's completely the same. I'm glad you brought it up, though, because when I did my tiers and I launched the campaign on the Friday, I don't know what Indiegogo did, but they decided not to put my featured tier as the rest of the world. They decided to put it as United States only. So because people had already started to purchase from it, I couldn't go in and edit it. So I had a couple of people contact me, one from Singapore, one from there was a couple from Australia saying we can't back it, it's not letting us. So I just went in and I created a whole new tier that had international, and it was exactly the same as the featured tier. And then I sent another email out through MailChimp, which is what I was using, saying that if you've had this problem. It also did something weird and wonderful on my add-ons, which Peter Sametti kindly sorted out for me. So what I did was the 24-hour Donald DeLay cover that was the black and white cover. What I did was I extended it for 3 hours to allow people to be able to have it as an add-on, because for the first couple of hours of the campaign, I was getting like purchases and refunds because people were trying to purchase the add-ons. It wasn't working. So I just went through and I sorted it all again. And then I gave people another couple of extra hours.
Part of the chaos that you just don't know until you get into this stuff.
No, and I don't know what Indiegogo did, and it's really it was so good, because when I got off of Ethan's stream when he opened my campaign, Peter literally was in DMs with me going, right, click this, click that, click this. So, like, Peter Sametti is fantastic, and hats off to him, because he really helped me out there.
Yeah, he's great people.
And people were messaging me going, oh, Charlie, you've given such amazing customer service. You know, extending that for 3 hours. Now I can actually sort the card out and I can make the payment. There was a couple of people who, for all sorts of reasons, they had trouble with it going through, and because I know that they're, I've seen them around, they're good people, they're in chats all the time, I know they back campaigns regularly. I was doing things like, okay, if you PayPal me the money, I'll order it for you, and I was sending them through the confirmation emails and making a note of it that they'd paid it this way and to remember to put this in their bundle.
Yeah, it's work, but we always get you can manage it once you understand what it is.
Yeah, and that to me, just when you're giving that level of customer service, people will then go, you know what, she's gone the extra mile for me. It's that confidence in backing you. It's that, it's that trust that you develop with your customer. It's
For
important.
sure.
It's totally important. And when it comes to fulfilling, I have a list of those people. When they back X, Y, and Z, they'll all go in the package together at no extra cost of shipping. So that's what I will do.
Bing, bang, boom. Just have to stay organized. The Keystone kit and caboodle.
Mm-hmm.
This is everything.
This is everything and anything. The only thing that's not in there is the 24-hour black and white Donald delay cover, which was a launch exclusive. Mm-hmm. But anything else apart from that gets added on this campaign that you would have to buy separately, you will not have to buy if you back this tier. It all comes in now. And that was a promise that I made. This was something I wanted to do. I'm speaking to a local company at the moment about the possibility of getting special boxes made for this tier,
cool.
Which hopefully, if I can do it, if it's cost effective, I mean, they're going to come nicely packaged anyway because I already have a standard that I want to set. But I want to be able to do something that looks a little bit like a suitcase with stickers on the outside.
Wow.
Which I think would be quite a nice addition to it, but we'll see.
Your main thing there is just being careful about the international shipping problem. If you make a special box, the dimensions can get blown a little bit, and then there's a weight issue as well. But pretty much it's probably just the dimensions that'd be an issue. But as long as you research that, which I'm sure you are.
Yeah, what I did was I had we don't get Gemini mailers over here, but we get some really good alternatives. And I had one that was a fantastic alternative that was sent to me with it by UK Book. And what I did was I took that box, I put 3 books in that were about the same size, so about 64 pages, perfect bound.
Cool.
Books like Flying Fortress, that's a bit bigger, but I think I put in the pack Flying Fortress and Graveyard Shift.
That's a big one. Yeah, between those two, you've easily you got it covered.
Yeah, and I got them to tell me the price. That's how I worked my prices out.
Ah, cool. Yeah, you'll be safe then.
And they said to me that the dimensions of that, as long as it goes through as a letter, that's like you've just said. So it was all about making sure that I was able to afford the best packaging, and equally my customers are going to get their books at a good price.
I think it's mainly the width of the package to assess whether it's a letter or not. Every time when we did the college day, graduation day shipping, I learned a lot about that process. Also, thanks to a few COMICSGATE guys who are like, hey, did you know about this thing? Did you know about that thing?
Yeah.
The international letter standard and things like that. I'm really happy that this has worked so well for you. I'm really happy. You deserve the success, 1,000,000%. You're passionate about this project. You're making sure everything's great. And this is why everybody wants you on their streams to talk about your very, very cool project.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun talking to you. I don't feel like we've spoken properly like this in ages, so it's lovely to have
It's been a little while. It has been a little while, but we were on I think we were on your channel on a zombie show recently.
Yeah, I love that. That was so much fun.
A month ago, but yeah, you're always surprised, but always like, this is why you're such cool people. Everybody's always like, who could say no to you about anything? So
thank you. Yeah, we're a good bunch over on the CG UK. And we always say to people, if they get a little bit confused by us, because we obviously have the UK in with the CG, we always remind people we're just CG. It's just we all stream at UK times. That's the only reason. We're not a fraction group away. We're all exactly the same, and we are.
Okay, so you're sort of working on a different time schedule. That's
what it is. It's like we stream together. We've obviously, because we're all Brits, we've got a very similar twisted sense of humor.
You've got Commie Mark in there. That's the only thing that,
of course. And we've got Chubb, who Commie Mark lovingly refers to as the only African in COMICSGATE. Yeah, and Jabba's there too. Jabba comes along for the friendly ride. That's his. I think it's his second or third account.
Jabba's cool.
His toilet account, yeah. So we are a bunch of prat. He's 100% right, but you know, we haven't been kicked out of anything yet, so I think we're going to be fine.
No, you guys are all awesome, and I'm looking forward to the next Commie Mark project, which I know it seems like it's coming soon. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll have to find out when he's ready to talk more about it.
It is. It's 100% is. It's like I was originally going to launch my book on the CG UK show, and then Ethan so lovelily said, "Don't come launch on my channel." And I said to the guys, "Oh my God, like he's asked me to launch it."
Yeah.
And they said, "Go do it! Like what are you waiting for? Like go."
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I saw him mention that. I saw him mention it, and then I went a couple hours, came back because I haven't been on Twitter nonstop. I used to be on Twitter all the time. So I turned around and like, oh damn, they launched Charlie's London on Ethan's channel already. Like I've missed a couple that I really wish I hadn't missed. So I'm gonna have to pay more attention to Twitter.
That was so cool. Do you know what it felt like? You know, it felt like I was about 5 or 6 years of age again at my school nativity play because my parents were watching that stream.
Oh,
like, oh, for God's sake! Like, and I was like, please don't say anything in the chat. and my dad afterwards, right? My dad's lived in London since he was 11, but he's still got his very strong Turkish accent, and he was going to be that man. He knows things. He good man about Ethan. I was like, all right, yeah, right, thanks. Shut up.
He's right. He does know things.
I know. It's just so funny hearing my dad say it. I was like, oh, for God's sake.
It sounds like the kind of thing that I would say. That's the only thing that bothers me about it. It's like, I know exactly what he means. I would say that sort of thing. It's like, doesn't mean anything. We just want you to notice. Like, make sure you notice. Like, yeah, you know these good people.
Like, he said to me, he's a very clever man. He knows things. Like you can tell when you listen to Ethan that he knows things. He's not just saying the first thing that he plucks out of the air. He knows what he's talking about, and more people need to listen to what he's talking about. I do my prattery for the States for the benefit of people. Yeah, you distribute fairly everything, Mark. Prattery.
Commie Mark. It's got to be that way. All right. Well, let's connect again soon. I'll let you go. You have another stream. You're going to be doing Kelsey's stream at, is it another hour from now?
Doing Kelsey's stream. No, it's 1 o'clock, but I'm probably going to pop over onto Ethan's now as well to say hello to everybody. So.
Very cool. All right. Well, get in there and sell some books, my dear.
Thank you so much, Adam, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Great seeing you. And guys, go check out Charlie's London on Ethan's.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Talk to you later.